So let me answer your questions. I'm glad you're here and just want to spend the time with you based on what I shared. And I know it was a bit like a fire hose because I wanted to just bring you all the quadrants. And so talk to me. What are you guys struggling with when it comes to pornography? So let me just answer the questions. So hey Heather, I'm not going to mention any last names, just first name. And if you don't want me to, just put anonymous, and I'm good with that. So, um, can you explain the escalation progression when it then leads to porn and live affairs? Yes. Such a great question. So let's talk about porn and how it leads from actually looking at pornography, whether it's still pictures. Like the one gal I shared with you, her significant other was making pornography using artificial intelligence. I mean, that's the reality of what's happening today, gang. People who are struggling with porn addictions because their brain wants more and more. The brain is wired for um, lots of clicks and things to change and there to be different arousal opportunities. It likes to be stimulated and it's like that in many different areas. So if the brain is just looking at the same picture again and again and again, Heather, the ability for that person to be sexually aroused by that same picture is going to go away very quickly. So, what happens is, and this is, I wrote about this in a chapter I wrote in a book that Covenant Eyes, Sam Black wrote. I did some research on the porn industry, and I just want you guys to know it is so deep, so dark, so wide. There are so many different categories. And it broke my heart because everything is out there. Every kind of pornography, live video feeds of anything you can imagine. Just just horrible acts done to other people. Now, it's shocking to me how the brain could get normalized to those type of things, but it does. And so then whatever that brain's taking in, it's like all of a sudden it starts wanting that in the real world. It starts fantasizing about that in the real world. So pornography is really, I see it often as a gateway drug that gets them into also acting out through massage parlors, strip clubs, getting nude massages, people at their workplace, neighbors, affairs. It's just so much. And that's why I hate porn, Heather, because I feel like pornography, the person that gets hooked to pornography and starts using it, they don't realize that it's actually a weapon of mass destruction aimed at their entire family. You, your kids, grandkids, it just blows everything up eventually. And so there's a natural progression, biochemistry. It's a process addiction, which means the chemicals are all inside. And yeah, so toxic. Hey, Anonymous, thank you for being here today and being so brave to ask me one of your questions. How do you handle the church community telling you it's not infidelity because it never crossed into physical affairs? There was many other sexual behaviors like lust and fantasy. I know. It's shocking to me actually because Jesus, you know, Jesus was tough. Jesus kind of this is like in ink. If you want to find out, Jesus talks about in the Bible and any churches that are using the Bible, Jesus said, if a man even looks at a woman to lust after her, he's committed adultery in his heart, right? Like, okay. So Jesus isn't mincing words. And that's what's shocking to me. Like the one story I told you, and this is not uncommon. I actually researched 14,000 of you and asked you the question about how you've been impacted by the clergy. And there's amazing clergy out there, but they are not, some of them are not up to date on the impact of how this harms us. And they're minimizing the use of pornography, saying that it needs to be physical contact, like body part inside body part. And the only reason I'm not saying what I would say in my community is because I don't want to be taken down off of Facebook. But I'm telling you, it's insane to me. They are using body images to masturbate instead of bringing their sexual energies into their relationship. Now, they're doing this in secret. Are you supposed to be a replacement for that? Heck no, not at all. You are not to become a pornified wife. But many of them, because they're looking at porn, actually use our bodies as receptacles for what they're looking at. It's so wrong. And so a dear friend of mine wrote a book called An Affair of the Mind. Her name is Lori. I'm trying to think of her last name. Lori Hall. Hey, Lori, I love your book. She goes into it deep and wide, but I see pornography as a very destructive ways that causes sexual violation in marriages and chronic porn. I actually see it as an affair of the mind, like Lori Hall. So I feel very serious about this issue. And I know a lot of people in the church are minimizing it. I know other therapists are minimizing it. I know coaches, colleagues, people at large, like, you know, it's just porn, but it's not. It's a lifestyle and a way of sexual acting out that's harming you. Hey, Jenny, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you asking your question. So, my husband's ED stands for erectile dysfunction. So, my husband's erectile dysfunction is what led to deep marital damage. He hid his porn addiction for 30 years. Is there a connection between porn addiction and ED? Yes, Jenny. And thank you for asking this question. I'm so sorry for what happened to you because I imagine that you are an amazing wife. To be married 30 years and then to have his unit stop working with you is so shocking. And so many of us start to just ask questions about ourselves. We start to feel some shame like, okay, well, is it me? Am I not, sexy enough? Or I put on 15, 20 pounds or whatever it is, right? We start taking responsibility for their lack of their body part working. Well, then we begin to wonder, how are their testosterone levels? I wonder if there's some issues going on with testosterone. Well, I imagine if you've been married for 30 years, you probably got married in your 20s. He's probably in his 50s. Well, yeah, you want to have him go get a physical check, see if his testosterone levels have dropped, right? The medical thing is okay. But let me tell you what's causing a lot of ED out there right now. Erectile dysfunction, even in 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 40-year-olds. It's because they're looking at porn. So what happens in the brain? When you look at porn, dopamine is released, oxytocin, which is a bonding chemical, is released, adrenaline rush happens. And so, like a kid with candy, they're grabbing that porn and don't want to let it go. Well, you have that much dopamine day after day, hit after hit, go into their brain. Guess what God did? God created a stopgap in our brain, which is like, let me explain it. Dopamine, imagine a brain with a bunch of parking lots, like at the mall. You go in and you park in parking lots. Well, dopamine is like a parking lot. Each dopamine goes through a neurotransmitter, like a car going into a neurotransmitter parking lot. Well, kind of like at Christmas when you can't find a parking lot at the mall. It's kind of like that with dopamine. You have too much dopamine, there's not enough parking lots, and the dopamine floods the brain. When the brain is not working, their sexual unit is not working. It shuts it down, it floods it. So what's going on in their brain happens to their, organ, male organ. And many of them panic. There's groups all over the nation, actually, for guys who are in support groups to stop using porn for 6 months so they can get their unit to start working again. So it's a real thing and it's an epidemic. So if your significant other is struggling with ED, I thank you so much for asking that question just to help educate all of us as to what pornography is doing and how it harms them and you. Hey, Anonymous. Thank you so much for sharing your question here with me and being here today. It's really brave to ask your question. So, can you comment on deviant fetishes like a foot fetish or bondage that began early in childhood? My husband says his therapist says the foot fetish is ingrained and very hard to change. Can it change? What would that look like? All right, Anonymous. You know what I wish? I actually wish you were in my Brave One community right now. I'm going to answer your question, but I wish you were in my Brave One community. You know why? Because I'd say, hey, come to the Q&A tonight. It's going to be at 5 o'clock. I want to talk to you and let's unpack what's going on with you in a private space where you can be cared for because there's so many moving parts to this. So oftentimes, there can be early traumas where somebody has felt they've been a victim. They've had power taken away from them. They've been powerless and helpless. So there can be kids that have a neighbor that sexually acts out or a parent that sex out and a member, something happens on top of them, someone they know or maybe even don't know. That leaves them with this negative belief that I'm powerless and helpless. So why does BDSM, bondage, sadism, masochism, and all of that carry such a powerful plug for some people? Well, sadly, it represents a power over. In the sexual acting out, their arousal template, unbeknownst to them, gets hooked into stories of domination, of control, as they're unconsciously trying to work out losing power and losing control earlier in their childhood. Now, is it always that way? No. There are people that grew up and found porn when they were 8, 9, 10 years old, and they get into this big porn world and they find BDSM porn by just going on and their brain gets bored of other things and then starts going into those dark places where dignity is robbed of people. So just know that if they had that doesn't mean exclusively that they had trauma. Now, foot fetishes, this is not a client that I worked with, but I remember working with somebody years ago, and it was not in a client form. It was just something that I had done at a small group experience. And they shared that they had a foot fetish and what was a part of that specific foot fetish. And when they were a kid, their parents split. And so they spent a lot of time with their grandma, and their grandma ended up raising them. And so the grandma would hold them, and this little guy would take his hand and would rub it up and down his grandma's. She wore those kind of support stockings. And sometimes the grandma would have him rub her feet. Well, that little kid filed that experience of rubbing his grandma's feet away, had no memory of it. It was a good memory. And over the years, through the pain and porn and all of that, he ended up reenacting some of that, having an arousal template that had to do with a foot fetish because of that. That's one story. There's many, many things. That's why I can't really talk about your specific event. But all behavior usually leads to why somebody is doing something, unless the behavior, the brain chemistry behavior is guiding them as well. So thank you for asking that. Hey, Patty, thank you for being here today and for asking your question. Hi, Dr. Sherry. It's so good to hear your voice. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, I'm doing better. Good. I am still not getting quality sleep. Okay. I'm sad about that. My husband and I have been legally separated. And you know what I want you to know, Patty, because I know we know each other and I'm not going to share any of your story, I promise. But I know your story and I know who you are. So I'm going to at least, encourage you in some things I do know. My husband and I have had a legal separation after he refused to own that the damage that he did in our marriage. A few years ago, he admitted to porn and masturbation for decades. I know of one emotional affair he minimized and deflected it. I'm so, so sorry. My heart breaks for you, Patty, because one, I know how hard you've been working. I'm really proud of you for the boundaries that you put in place. And the most difficult thing, Patty, about the boundaries that we put in place is just because we put them there, boundaries are about protecting our heart. They're not about, punishing someone. They're a way that we can make impact in their world, and you did. You've been so brave. But it's very sad when some of them choose to hold on to the pornography and lifestyle of sexual acting out and forfeit family, kids, their reputation, their life, and all of that. It's honestly, and you know this because I've told you this, Patty, and I know your story well. It's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of his choice and where he's at. And there's been help that he could have had, but he's not there. And so, in some cases, the porn addiction wins. In some cases, the sex addiction wins. And sadly, like some kind of a disease, right, that would lead to a death, there's a death to that relationship as well. And I know in your case, um, that's why your heart is breaking, because you're grieving years of being a faithful wife to him. Um, Sleep. I I would encourage you to see if there's anything you can do to quiet that sweet brain of yours, because some of our brains just have a hard time letting it go. I've worked with partners that are in the grieving place doing something called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And you know what the negative belief is that I focus in on? Because the bottom line is they're grieving the relationship they can't have, right? Their significant other isn't turning around. So the negative belief is I can't get what I want. That's a negative belief that gets wired in, and that keeps our brain in a hypervigilant looping spin. The opposite of that, and that's where the EMDR helps them go, is I can grieve and cry and let the relationship go. And when I work with these betrayed partners using that target, I get to sit with them as they cry a river of tears, as they get mad, as they're hurting, but they move through that grief with the EMDR instead of being stuck in it and frozen. So hopefully, maybe something I've shared today, Patty, might be something you can try. But I do care for you. Um, you said a little bit more. I didn't get to see it because it was at the very bottom. Um, so what is the likelihood that he did something, right? Because you know of one emotional affair. Um, Boy, that's such a good question. What do you think, Patty? Right? Oftentimes, what I ask women is, what do you know about their story? Because I have women tell me, well, he was seeing a woman and I know that he was taking her out to lunch and I know that, he said he didn't do anything. And I did a polygraph years ago with a guy who's not alive anymore. His name was Jack Tramarco. And I'll never forget it. He used to be on the Dr. Phil show, but I went and talked to him. I interviewed him in Beverly Hills about, can you tell me about polygraphs? And he did one question polygraphs that were like $4,500 for one question. And I said, how do you know what to ask? Like, do you ask, was there a sexual affair? Do you ask, was there an emotional affair? And I'll never forget it. He looked at me and he said, men are always moving towards a sexual contact. He said, a women, they will get into affairs and it may be emotional. Men, it may start emotional, but they're always moving that basketball down the court to get it to become something sexual. I've never forgotten that, Patty. And in my experience, I see that to be true. Now, is it true in every case? No, because I do things called therapeutic full disclosures and polygraphs, and some of them involve sexual contact, which could be kissing, right? Kissing is sexual. Um, there's all kinds of kissing and other things that can be done. It's not just, a body unit inside another body unit somehow. But I've had cases where there's not been sexual contact and cases there has been. So, but I do not minimize the pornography. It's harmful whether there is sexual acting out or not. Hey, Anonymous, thank you for being here today. My husband says he watches porn but does not finish. I don't believe him. Could this be true? No. Anonymous. I'm not laughing at you. Oh my goodness. This is the kind of stuff that just makes us feel crazy. I'm just laughing at the ridiculousness of even the claim, the question, the lie, the confusion. Like, oh, I'm just looking at it, but I'm not finishing. The whole point as a certified sex addiction therapist, the whole point of going to any kind of arousing material, sexual arousing material, is to start a physiological process that goes on in their body, and then their unit, responds to it. And then all of a sudden it wants to have a more heightened sense and then a release of masturbation. So I want you to know, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry about the crazy making. I'm sorry about the hurt. I'm sorry about this form of gaslighting, Anonymous, which would make you question your judgment at such a deep level, because your husband, in telling you that, yeah, I look at porn, but I don't finish. He's bringing it to, and you're in a dilemma. Either you're going to trust him that he's telling you the truth, or you're going to trust your gut, which is probably telling you something feels really wrong about this. That is what compromises our intuition, because we either got to trust them or trust our gut, our intuition. So I just want to tell you, Anonymous, I'm so sorry. I don't believe he's telling you the truth. Because that just leads to crazy making. So I'm sorry that's your situation, but no, I'm sorry that's your situation. No, but I hope being here today validated you and what you already believe in the deepest part of your gut is going on with what he's telling you. And you can hold on to your truth and say, you know what? I don't believe you. It makes no sense to me. And we may have to just disagree to agree on this, agree to disagree on this one. And again, come into my community. Let me spend some time with you. Let me help you figure out what you can do so that you're not only continuing to respond to this crazy making that's going on in your relationship. Because as long as we believe them and there's a part of just shutting it down, then they just keep acting out and then they never get unhooked, right? Usually it's something that we do that instigates some kind of spoke in a wheel that stops things from going on. And that's what I am going to get to talk to you about in my Brave One community. So this will be the last question for today. Hey, Anonymous, thank you for being here as well. So, big risk. Thank you for trusting me with this. You said, I've never told anyone about my husband's cheating. I live in a small town and don't have any support. Your Brave One community could be helpful for me, but I'm scared about sharing. I'm so embarrassed about it all. How do I know if it's right for me? Anonymous, first off, I just want you to know I'm so sorry this is going on, and you must feel so alone. So alone. Not knowing who to talk to, not knowing where to turn, and just we have so much shame. It's called carried shame, where we carry shame, even though we haven't done anything wrong, over what they've done. And so a lot of betrayed partners I talk about is like doves in a cleft of a rock. Like we're just kind of hidden by carried shame and we don't want to tell anyone. And that's exactly why I opened up my Brave One community, because Brene Brown says this: what's the antidote to shame? It's empathy. It's saying, me too. It's happened to me. And in my Brave One community, there are women that have shared their heart. And you know what? They have unloaded that shame because they've gotten comfort. They've felt seen. They felt safe. They felt heard. They know how safe our Brave One community is. And I am so grateful. I have like bouncers at the door and have fortified it so that it's private, it's confidential. They know that it's protected from breaches that could happen. And I'm telling you, there's things we talk about that people don't talk about with their friends or other people. And so it's a really safe place. And I can tell you that, but I think what would be interesting is if you were just to jump in and again, you can jump into my community and start learning without being a part of the private Facebook community. You can jump in and just completely anonymous, just jump into my Brave One community and start going through the Brave One journey and my boundary challenge. I have so much for you. How can you do that? You just go to braveone.com/community. It's braveone.com/ then the word community, COMMUNITY. Right now, if you put the code in B1C17 in the coupon code, you actually can join for $17 for your first month. Saves you $20. Even if you, Anonymous, just jumped in for this first month just to try it out, get a chance to test the value and see if it's something that could provide support, sanity, love, care. And then as a member of my community, there are times that like all my Q&As, everybody comes. People that are in the Facebook community and people that aren't. My Q&As, everybody comes to that. And it's private. It's private for members. It's only for people that are inside my community. So I'd love to meet you. I'd love to care for your heart. I have people that join from all over the world. I have people that join from small towns if there's not another person they know who's dealing with this, and they find a very safe, cocooned sisterhood in the Brave One community. So I would love for you to be a part of that. So hopefully something that I shared today has brought some sanity to some of the things that you are experiencing, to some of the things that your significant others have told you. Hopefully, it has brought you some validation to the harm that you've experienced, your family members have experienced. Hopefully, hearing my words as you've listened to me, you're like, everything she said just makes sense. And hopefully, I've just helped you to feel seen, heard, cared for, and that you're not alone. I do care for you. I love you. I want to help you very much. And so that's why I came today doing this Facebook Live. And again, if you join in the next 3 days, we'll start working together and you can start on my Brave One journey. All you have to do is just jump in before this Saturday, July 18th at midnight, and we'll start working together. We'll roll up our sleeves, right? I'm here to support you and fight with you. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you inside my Brave One community.